So for this video, I'm going to go over some of the newer stuff that we got in. It's been about 4 months or so since the last video going over stuff, and we've actually been able to bring in quite a few different things. So I figured it's time to go over some of them. I'm just going to pretty much just start right out at the beginning. Here is a new shaped halo that we had brought out. These are the 3/4 C-shaped halo. These, you know, it's just a different shape, it's a different style. You can run them whatever angle you want to run them at, whatever makes sense. They are mirrored, so flow-wise you can have one on one side, one on the other, whatever makes sense. I've actually got 2 pair of these on my Legacy. I think they look really cool, actually. I think it depends on the car, it depends on the application, it depends on the circumstance, but personally, I actually really like this design. We have another design that's in the works that I'm really excited about. That one's not done yet, so stay tuned. Hopefully we'll have it out soon. But these are addressable currently, so SK6812. They have the milky white coating, so these are a 6K white, cool white. They do have the outputs, so you can add outputs or run them in series if you need to, and they are 5 volt. So that is the first thing. Up next, so we didn't actually have these developed, but one of our manufacturers did, and so since they offer it, we ended up buying it. We are carrying it. The heart shape, I'll be honest with you, I'm not a huge fan myself of the shape, but I could be sold. You know, I've seen some shapes I wasn't a fan of before, and then they ended up going on a certain car and it just looked amazing. So I could definitely be sold on them. Personally though, not a huge fan, but we got them. We got them in. If you want them, they're here. Same deal, SK6812, RGBW, milky white coating, 6K, inputs only. That was one downside. If we had designed them, definitely would have had the outputs put on. These do not have outputs. Inputs only on the heart halos. But they are adhesive lined on the back and can easily be installed into whatever your application. Up next, we'll go over this one. So this one was fairly popular. I'm sure most of you guys are already familiar with it, but you know, since we're carrying it, I'm going to go ahead and cover it. This is the diffused tubes with SK6812 RGBW LEDs in them. This is also like a 6K white. They're very flexible. They're very easily mounted inside of lights. You got the 3M backing tape. They can be cut. There are solder points on the boards if you needed to cut and then do an output. I think the best application for me in these so far has been the chargers. Currently they do fit pretty well in a charger. So that's one thing to consider, and one area where actually I think this is a really good application for. And you can do the outputs, so if you just cut the tube wherever you need, I think 24 inch, you need 4 of them for a charger. These are more than long enough at 24 inches, and you can just cut and add in your outputs and then run to the next strip. Now we can run it all in series. We do have these in 24 and 36, and yeah, hey, as long as you guys still want stuff like this, we can definitely keep getting it in. Up next, this is really more of an update, product update. We've had 80 mil, 90 mil, 100, so I guess we go 70 through 110, so 70, 80, 90, 100, and 110 millimeter halos in addressable SKs. The biggest difference we've done now, we are clearancing out our old stuff, which is the natural white, and we're moving up into the new milky white. So the old ones are the old SK LEDs, so they're not as beefy as the new SK. So new SK, these can run clear up to 15 volt and run pretty pretty beefy, pretty solid. It's actually not extremely common to have these things go out, so I really like these, and that's why I'm trying to push towards them. And that's where we're clearancing out. Literally, you're getting them at cost. So if you buy the natural whites, you want to pick them up. I think they're 35 bucks a set right now. Have at them, go for them. They're still great LEDs. I've still got tons of sets out there rolling down the road, no problem whatsoever. It is a natural white, which was a downside, and more importantly for me, I really want to knock the reliability up into that next factor in everything that we sell. So if it's anything that we can improve on, the old stuff's got to go, and that's pretty much what it's come to. These are just, the old SK are good. These are just awesome. So moving over to this, the new coating as well, which is something that we really wanted to do, and then of course the better SK that can take a lot more voltage. Once again, these are 5 volt. You should only run 5 volt to them, but the fact that they can take 15 volts and still keep ticking just increases my beliefs in them and their ability to hold on and keep going. Outputs as well on these, inputs, outputs, sticky tape on the back, all that stuff's the same, just the new coating and better LEDs. Up next, inverters. So we all use inverters a lot, and I just kept looking around for different ones, trying them. I came across one that I've had really good luck with. They worked really well. They were really small, and hey, I was able to get my logo on there, so I was like, yeah, that works. So we ended up having these made up, and we are selling them on the site. They are 10 amp, 5 volt inverters. It's what I use in all my builds. If you do have a build with higher voltage or higher amperage on the LEDs, you probably just run one of these to each light, like in taillights. Most taillights, you got so many 5 mil running in there, you probably should run an inverter on each light. So you just run 2, just run one on one light, one on the other. Another cool thing about these, you can snap off the little mounting tabs on the side, and you can actually mount them inside of the ghost box. And I've actually done that in this one here, and you can see kind of an example. And it's all just potted. This is actually probably end up start selling the potted ghost controllers like this. It's a little bit more work, so I have to debate if I'm going to charge a little bit more money to do it this way, but it is a heck of a lot cleaner. You can see how flush it sits inside there. This is potted inside, and the backing is put back on there. You can easily screw, attach, however you decide to do it, and it will sit flush. And you've got your inverter right there. The ghost is inside. This will not work on a plus, so if it's a plus, it will have to be mounted externally, but on a light, it'll work. And then I got my outputs going out. I got my 4 trigger wires and my power wire going out the bottom. So that is one big plus to the size of our inverters, being as small as they are. At this point, I have sold or used over 150 of these, and have yet to have anyone tell me that they've had one go out. So very happy with them, very happy with how they performed, very happy with the size, very happy with the fact they don't get hot. I've actually had a couple lights where I accidentally ran the power to the ground and the ground to the power, and it was still working. I replaced it just because I don't trust it at that point, but it was still working. On the old metal heat sink ones, nah, you toss them, it's done, it's fried. Don't even bother. These, for some reason, they're holding up really well. I don't know if the design and the circuitry was a little bit better. This isn't like my main company. This is another one that I kind of stumbled across, and they're making them for me. But once again, you guys enabled me to buy in enough quantities that I can get the prices down for a reasonable rate. So I believe these are $15 on the site. Dealers, obviously, you get your discount. But just something new that we got on the site. Hopefully you guys can use. Up next is another update. So we, in the last video, got the 8 mil SK strips done. 1 meter long, 8 mil wide. Sticky tape on the back, SK 6812s. The updates are that we have added in the braided sleeving on the wires, and most importantly, on the back side now, is a full-size contact. That was something that was a little bit of a mistake on the last set. They were supposed to be full-size, but it got lost in communication with the manufacturer. We have addressed that. It is fixed. The new stuff is in. You'll see the old stuff is discounted. Once again, if we improve on a design, I'd rather just get rid of the old stuff and then move on to the new stuff. So the old stuff with the smaller solder pads on the back without the braided wiring is, I believe, 40, and these are 50 a meter. Hopefully it's something you guys can use, something I use a heck of a lot of, and so far they have been really good. I'm really impressed with everything that this manufacturer has been doing so far, aside from the little, communication issues, but for the most part, very happy. Up next is kind of a first phase in some of the stuff that I'm going to be trying to bring out. This is the same manufacturer as the last strip, but we're trying to get them into diffusion. They're a little bit new to this. They don't really work with headlights that much, so this is a little bit different for them. So diffusion was never something that they were really big on, but I'm getting them into it. I'm getting them to experiment with it. So we did do this diffused strip, and for the most part, I think it does a pretty good job at what it's supposed to do. So, as you can see here, it is pretty visible for the LEDs, so the coating could be thicker, but the flexibility is really what sets it apart. So, I mean, you can see the LEDs, it's not really thick, but when they're off, it does hide it well. So if you're in the case where you got to put something inside of a light, you want it to look good when it's off, these are really good for that. So, the light's turned off and everything's sitting there. If you're like me, you don't really like to have the exposed LEDs just sitting inside the light. This hides it really well. The downside is, like I said, it doesn't really diffuse the LEDs into one. I'm not sure how much we'll be able to do with that with the 50/50 and still keep a flexibility to it. But another issue is the white. So, go here. The white is a little bit of a natural white, and that is a result of the coating, and we're going to work on that. So originally they developed this coating for a cob strip, and with RGB it actually looks pretty good because of the bluish tint, the bluish hue of the RGB in white mode. But what we didn't realize was that with the RGBW, that same coating was not going to look as good with a true white LED behind it. So these LEDs are actually a 6K white, but the coating gives it a natural white look. Every other color, you don't really notice it. There's red, blue, green. You don't notice it. But in that white mode, you do. So that's something to definitely keep in mind. It is more of a natural white than it is a cool white. So it will be a little bit off for most of the rest of the stuff that we sell. But once again, if the LEDs are off and it's sitting inside of a light, it's another case where there's really nothing else like it. So as much as there's some areas that I wish were a little bit better, and we're going to try to address them and fix them in the future, it's still the only thing like it on the market. It's super thin, as you can see. It's super flexible, as you can see. And it does look pretty good inside of a light compared to what you would get with just a standard strip, or really even a tube, because it can sit so much flatter than any tube will. So it's a start. Call this version 1. Hopefully version 2 will address all the issues. If not, maybe we move to a version 3, but I think it's definitely a start in the right direction of what we're trying to do. These are on the site. I can definitely see a point where I'll use these in an application depending on what it is. There's definitely a place for it, but with those caveats to consider. Up next is an RGB controller. It's nothing really fancy. It's just that we want to be a one-stop shop for just about everything, and this is something that we could get in relatively inexpensive, so I think these are going to end up being about 20 bucks a piece. They have 5-pin JSTs on them, so they will match up with our Demon Eyes that we sell. It's not addressable. This is just standard. As far as the plug goes, you can actually just cut this off and then just a red and black wire, power and ground. It's just something to offer, an easy way to get a very small, sleek controller for our Demon Eyes and other RGB controllers or RGB products that you might have that you want to run. We have adapters as well available for these that will turn it from a 5-pin to a 4-pin, so you could plug it into a profile product or something like that and it'll work. It's a Bluetooth controller. You can scan the QR code and download the app if you need to. Other than that, yeah, I mean, like I said, it's not something out of left field. It's just another step forward in trying to make us one-stop shop for everything, and hopefully provide you guys with everything you need for a price that's reasonable. Up next is a 8mm version of our UCS. So these are still sold by the meter. This is a 1/2 meter strip. These are the same semi-rigid as our 12-inch or 12mm variant, and they are just as bright. The difference is they are 120 per meter instead of 144 per meter, so it is a little bit differently spaced out, but they're only 8mm wide. So like, this is something I put in my own show car. 12 meters would have never fit, but 8mm fit just fine. So you can see, super bright, UCS, just like we really like them. Solder pads in the back, just like the 12mm. Still has our controllers and different diodes and stuff on the back, keep them out of the way. But super bright, keep that same super bright look that we get with the 12mm, but in an 8mm version, so it might be easier depending on your application and where you're going to put it. So up next, this is something else that we had developed. Wanted to put out an RGB halo option similar to what Profile put out. Nice diffusion, nice color to it, RGB. But one thing I never really liked about Profile was the fact that you couldn't really do the DRL. Like, if you use the XBT, it defaults to white, so you could run the XBT controller to your DRL for the power, and then when the DRL kicks on, it automatically go to white. But you know, that combination can get a little bit expensive, but also you know, most people want to be able to turn on their halos without having to turn on the DRLs. So there's no really good option to be able to make these halos, the Profile halos, actually run white. No one else really made anything like it that was diffused. So we ended up having these designed, and these have your DRL and your turn signal input. So you have to run your ground, same thing as you would with the Profiles, but then you also have your turn signal and your DRL, and that is on each side. So this is just one driver. You'll actually have one driver for each side, and they have all the inputs. And then you have your controller. This is just a standard Magic Light app for this, and then the halos themselves. I'll go ahead and plug this up. So as you can see, I went ahead and hooked that up, and you can see there's your halo. One nice thing about these, we did use a very small LED, so we're able to get a very clean look. It doesn't have that 50-50 look like the Addressables do. Unfortunately, they don't really make LEDs like this that we could use for this purpose, but it does look pretty good like that. In addition, you've also got the DRL and the turn signal inputs. So there's your DRL. It is a very nice white. There's really not much of a bluish tint to it either, actually. They did a really good job at getting a really good looking white. I mean, it's not a true white. It's not a very, because it is RGB. RGB you're never going to get fully, but for an RGB it is pretty close to a white. And then you got your turn signal, which once again you got that amber look that you need, and then you go right back to RGB in a little rotating mode there. But it is bright. Honestly, it is brighter than profile. Not necessarily the intent of what we're trying to put out, but they are brighter. It's more uniform. I think that's probably one of the biggest things with profiles. If you see them in person, you can actually see the individual LEDs pretty easily. A lot of camera shots, camera angles can hide that pretty well, but in person, anybody that's seen them, you can see them. And this, it's pretty hard to see. You can see if you look really hard, but it's pretty hard to see. It's a very uniform halo, and that's something I really like. I've used it several times now. I mostly do addressable stuff, but any chance that somebody wants an RGB and not having the color flow or addressable or anything like this, I wouldn't hesitate to put these in. I like them. I use them. I'll use them on any builds that, non-addressable. They are bright, and like I said, the addition of the DRL and the turn signal is, to me, way better than the options that we have on the market right now for an RGB halo. And this is all in one, so you have your controller, you have your both drivers, and you have a set of halos all included. We did also have this designed where we do have a driver option that has 3 outputs, so you could run up to 3 halos on one driver, which is another issue that I've had with some of the other companies out there. If you're running more than one halo, you have to have 2 drivers on each light. If you're running 3 drivers on a light, that starts to become a little bit of a overload of controllers and drivers. With these, I do have the option on the site for one of our driver sets that has 3 outputs. So another benefit to that, you don't have to buy 3 sets. You can just buy one set with 3 halos, and you're actually paying less money because you still got one controller and you'd have one driver. Now, one thing to keep in mind with that would mean that all 3 halos, all 6 halos, 3 sets, would be the same color. So there will be no separation of channels like you would with like an XBT or something like that. Obviously, if that is a concern, you can just buy single halo sets and just buy 2 or 3 of them, and that would give you that 3-channel option if that is something that you need. But definitely is something that was a very nice addition, something that we did actually get these developed. To the best of my knowledge, no one else is using these yet, so we have them if that's something that interests you. So this is one more thing that I did want to cover. So we had on our last episode the 2.5 inch LED projector that we've been selling. It's a really good projector. I still use it a lot. I probably use it more than any other projector just because of the size and how easy it is to put into places. Plus with the threaded shaft and things like that, it just really is super versatile. Super great output. I've never heard a single person complain about the output on them. In most cases, you're upgrading from a stock halogen bulb. It doesn't take a whole lot to improve on that, and those are a significant improvement over that. I've even swapped them out from Charger HID sets, and it was night and day difference. Way better. So that's usually my go-to. This is, if you got an application where you got a little bit more room or you need something a little bit bigger, this fits really well. So this is our 3-inch projector. It is available on the site currently. Quite a few of you guys have already tried it out, and so far I've heard really good things about it. I've used it myself on several applications, and I've actually done some side-by-side comparisons, like with the MLED 2.0. This actually outperforms the MLED 2.0. This is our 3-inch LED bi-LED projector, so it does have the high and low function within it. It is very small. It does have the threaded shaft, just like our 2.5 inch. This is removable. There's actually 4 screws on the back side that will remove that entire part. The driver is inside. There is no additional driver needed like there is with the 2.5 inch. So in some cases, this may actually fit better than a 2.5 inch, depending on how big the light is, or where you can run wires and stuff. You got your high beam, and then your power and ground for the actual low beam. So the last thing on the list for this episode is our side emitting switchbacks. These come in 24 inch and 36 inch. These are the 36 inch variants. They come with a driver for each side. Same thing with these, with all of our switchback products. There are just 3 wires. There's no constant power wire needed. You have the DRL as marked, the turn signal, and the black is your ground. As you can see, they are quite bright, and the turn signal is sequential. And once again, these come in 36 inch and 24 inch variants. It's basically just like the XK Glow options that are out there. Here's your switchback function. They're very flexible. They can fit in places that nothing else will. And they are pretty bright. So if you're already using XK, once again, you want a one-stop shop. We do have these available for purchase. Dealers, you still get your discount. And even at full price, I think it's pretty competitive with what else is out there. So that's all I have right now. We've got many more things in the works. I've got some pretty exciting stuff that should be coming up. I'll hopefully try to get another one of these videos put together when I get a few of those things in, or I don't know, some of them might be big enough to have their own video. But as things move forward, as you guys continue to support me, I will continue to try to develop and push the market in the right direction. Try and encourage these manufacturers to keep improving on things. Obviously, a lot of what we've been doing, a lot of what everybody's been doing with automotive lighting and stuff like that has pushed SK to improve on their design, which was awesome. Hopefully we can do the same thing with some of the other companies that are making addressable products to make them more efficient. Maybe some smaller LEDs for the RGBWs would be awesome. I know RGB's got quite a few options. But I try to stick to that RGBW to get that true white color, plus the lower heat of the RGBW versus what the RGBs usually run. But you guys keep supporting me, and I will definitely try to keep giving you guys some good stuff and stuff that's worth having.